This episode was previously recorded. We recognize that lighthearted conversation about news intake lands a little differently given what's happening in the world at the time of the release of this episode.
Yeah, I think that if I'm honest, beneath it all, especially after having the experience, it's about how I look. Yeah, like if I'm gonna totally miss the ball and look like a doofus.
And then I'm gonna look like a doofus and they're gonna think I'm a doofus.
Yeah. Or I don't know, play golf. But yeah, then I'm not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So
Why
yeah,
can't
that
you
that
do-
wraps up the episode, right? We're done.
That's threes. There you go.
That's it for threes. Okay, well, I'm Kim.
And I'm Camille, and this is Enneagram for the Culture, where two dope Black therapists discuss how therapy, Blackness, and the Enneagram come together.
That's what we do here.
That's what we do, and that's what we've been doing.
We've been doing it, girl.
How are you?
How am I? Yeah, I think I have mixed feelings. I'm
That's
excited.
right.
I'm excited, but I'm also not excited.
Well, tell the people why.
Yeah, because we're talking about threes today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just I got mixed feelings, but
And
I'm mostly I'm not even mixed feelings.
and in true therapist communication form, when you told me that earlier, I went with, what do you need? What can we do? Right? Like checking in and making sure. But you said you feel good. You feel okay about it.
Yeah, I do. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna go with it.
I'm excited about talking about threes because I really like threes. I feel like I say that for so many numbers. I like threes, and I think that you guys are great. And so I think it's going to be, and obviously I have like benefited from your threeness. So what I was thinking about when I was thinking about this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to be like a love letter to Kim. Like, I don't here's all the ways your threeness has impacted my life.
Aww.
So
no, we won't do that. But maybe we can try to make it a love letter to threes, because threes need love.
mm-hmm.
And some of this is going to be, as with all of the other types, we're going to be shedding light on stuff. And so it can be uncomfortable and kind of hard to digest, but it's definitely coming from a place of love.
Yes. Well, let's jump in with at least how did the Enneagram show up for you this week? And I can start. I traveled with a friend the other day, and we were sharing a hotel room, and she just threw the TV on and just kind of flipped it onto news, like very nonchalantly, nothing to it. And I immediately was like, oh no, this cannot be on our TV. And it was like something sad was happening on the news. I was like, well, we have to turn this off. And she was like, what? Like, she didn't even think anything of it. And I was like, recognized I don't watch, I'm a 7, right? We've said that a million times. And I don't love just being sort of bombarded, or the word I actually want to use is assaulted by the news sometimes. And it wasn't even anything that was like super triggering of a news story. It was sort of just about like something that was happening in the city. But I couldn't do it. And it made me really like stop and recognize that I have a hard time with news stories and sad stories and scary stories and things happening in the world. I have to be very intentional about how I take in my news. I am news savvy. I like knowing what's going on in the world and politics and all those kind of things. So it's not like I have my head in the sand, but I do have to very much like, it's at this time for this amount of minutes in this way, like, because it can't just be an onslaught, or else I will go into a very dark and sad place, and I don't want to be there.
That's real. I'm the same way, but I'm listening to you and like Okay, yeah, I feel the same way, but I guess obviously, like for the sake of this conversation surrounding the Enneagram from a different place, but is that some type of something that threes and sevens have in common? Is that one of the triads we're together in, like that, um, wanting to remain like kind of like optimistic and um having something like the news, especially today, really putting a damper on that. Um,
Yeah, I think we're in that aggressive stance. And so with that, we like to do. And so I think that if we're taking on the news and we feel like we can't do anything. And I think I think threes and sevens are also forward thinkers. Um,
mhm,
and so I
mhm,
think that when we see the news and it's not fun or it's sad or triggering, then we want to move from that. We want to move forward.
mhm.
Let's change this. Let's fix this.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, I totally feel that. Yeah, I don't really remember when I went and got my nails done and they had some news showing. That was the last time I got a whiff of some news, and I did not appreciate that because
I
the
would be
cover was terrible.
so the anger that I would feel inside, Kim, if I were getting my nails done and they were playing the news, I would not go back to that salon and I probably would tell them that I don't think that this is correct because that is stressful. And then if I'm sitting there, my hands are stuck. So I have a fear of being stuck. So I can't move. Like if a news story comes on and it's really bad or sad or scary, I can't get out of there because this lady's working on my hands.
Camille, it was all about the Kyle Rittenhouse. Like it was all
Nope,
about that
nope,
coverage.
nope.
And I had this was not, we're going to do this, Camille. It was not my normal nail salon. And I had no choice because I'll talk about my Enneagram moment in a second, was also headed out of town. And I was trying to quickly at the last minute get a manicure and pedicure with like an hour to spare before we had to be on our way to the airport. So not ideal conditions, but yeah, that it sucked. And the,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
You know what? Now I'm also having a flashback, not a real flashback, but I'm having a memory come up for me that I remember I was at a nail salon when the Sandy Hook shooting was happening. I distinctly remember that. See, this is nail salons. If anybody works at a nail salon, if anybody works at a nail salon, do not put the news on for people. That is horrible. It is jarring and it is obviously something that has stuck with me, something that stuck with you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah. So outside of that, had it not been for that, I would not. I have CNN alerts on my phone, so I kind of sort of like, and I have them set to where it's like not too much. So like you, like I'm generally informed, but since COVID, like I've had to, I can't too much. So, but yeah, totally from that place of like, I don't know, it just makes me I need to be able to be hopeful, and I feel like sometimes the news can really challenge that. And I think it can also impact me being able to feel like I'm being productive and, doing enough. Both like with the emotions, like the place it kind of can put me in, that can be impactful for me as far as productivity, but just more at a more general sense, like being a doer.
yeah.
So so yeah. Well, so I went out of town too.
Yes.
Um, got my nails and toes done at the last minute,
At
and
a nail salon that you probably will not be
will
returning
not
to.
go back to. Correct. Yep. 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 And on this trip, it was a trip with my husband, and his we went to see his family in California. And my husband is very close with his cousins. Shout out to cousins, because cousins are important. I'm really close to my cousins too. So um we all went to play top golf, and Jonathan told me before we left that we would be going to play, that they were talking about playing top golf. And I'm just much more aware, had a reaction immediately. Um, never really, I don't think I would have previously called myself competitive, but my mom has always let me know that I am. And the more I've, just been trying to work on myself and be more self-aware, it's definitely, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So that reaction that I got when he first before we even left North Carolina to go to California, that we were going to all be getting together to play top golf, that's what that reaction was. And when we got there and everybody was talking about us going to play Top Golf, I had to just go ahead and let people know that I had feelings that I didn't really want to go play. And I didn't really want to play because I don't play golf, though I've taken a golf class. It's not something that I do regularly. Therefore, I don't feel like I am that good at it. And I don't like to do things that I'm not good at. And that's my shit. Totally myself. So I owned it, said that to them. We went and played golf.
Because what would be the fear? Is that I wouldn't be good, or that I would would they laugh at me? Like, what's the walk down that road for me? Because I'm curious.
You really okay? Yeah, I think but if I'm honest, beneath it all, especially after having the experience, it's about how I look. Yeah, like if I'm gonna totally miss the ball and look like a doofus.
And then I'm gonna look like a doofus, and they're gonna think I'm a doofus.
Yeah, or I don't know, play golf. But yeah, then I'm not good.
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
So yeah, that wraps up the episode, right? We're done.
That's threes. There you go.
That's it for threes. That's a wrap. We'll see y'all next time when we talk about fours.
No, gonna look like a doofus.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I would not have been able to get to that part, though. I would be able to say,
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's not something I'm good at, and I don't want to do it, and I just don't like it. It's probably what I would say. That's what I would always say about bowling. I just don't like it. It's just not my thing. But that's it. I don't.
But now I don't want other people to see that I'm not good at it. But then what happened?
So, like I said, I did take a course in undergrad, and
which I also think we could probably trace back to threeness as well. But we're gonna table that because
you could, absolutely you could, Camille. So what what's not gonna do, friend, is
pick you apart. Okay.
I'm totally joking. No, you're absolutely right. I took golf in undergrad because I was told it was a good skill to have to be able to be successful. Whatever I ended up doing, that it would just be a good skill to have. And this was not a business trip, but I mean, it worked out. I mean, I was pretty good. I beat everybody. Everybody was surprised that I was as good as I was. Until go to Top Golf and you're playing with a group. There's a timer, and I was especially in competition with my husband. We were leading the group. And so I was saving my my swings for the end because I really wanted to just.
What'd you want to do, Kim? What'd you want to do? You walked right into it.
Wanted to drag him. I really did. I just wanted, and they just wanted to just pulverize them. And people were moving too slow towards the end. I love you, cousins. I just realized people are gonna be listening. I love y'all. People were moving slow towards the end, and my time ran out, and I could not. I didn't get to go, and the internal turmoil. I mean, it was so real. It's a game, right? And it's family, so everybody's laughing. Yeah, but on the inside, it was hard.
Did you? So you didn't win?
No, I did not.
Did Jonathan?
I was winning.
You were winning. Okay, important to note.
Yes.
So Jonathan won.
Did Jonathan? Jonathan, I don't think not that round. He did not win that round. I did beat him.
Okay.
I did beat him. I didn't lose. I wasn't in last place, but I wasn't at the top. All right.
Okay.
Let's get through the rest of this.
We're gonna be all right, Kim. We're gonna make it. I see you get hot. Glad you wore a sweatshirt today, aren't you?
No, yeah, I'm a fan.
Well, let's jump into the threes. A little bit more of the actual structure of the number. I think this is I'm already laughing so much. I think this is gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be fun. Well, and sevens are around the corner. So
Mhm.
so threes, we call them the performer or the achiever, is their main sort of anecdotal names. Um, and for threes, the thing that I kind of call them is I call them the shining stars. They are the ones that are gonna um shine bright, and they're going to achieve success. They're driven towards success, and they're very independent. They're hardworking. They're oftentimes in leadership positions because they are really great at leadership. They are driven and they put 100% into their work. Um, they're forward thinking, like we talked about with the news. They are doers, very much so. They prioritize doing. What we see on the outside is they prioritize doing over feeling. They can be competitive. They are they can work a lot, again, that doing. And so sometimes that could look like working a lot in their like career, or it could be working in with their families, or whatever work looks like for a three. It can look like that, and sometimes it can become an overextension, and can kind of feel spread thin. They can kind of shape shift a little bit, because they're trying to um, succeed. So they'll walk into a room and kind of look at what the room's vibe is, what's happening in the room, and how do I fit this vibe to fit in, and like what Kim even said, like to not look like a doofus. And so they're going to shape shift to the majority sort of culture of the room or the space or the friendships or whatever it looks like. They do struggle with craving external validation. Um, so trying to sometimes be defined by what others think of them,
Mhm.
is a hard thing, and a thing that they have to work on. They are not in love with emotions or feelings, mainly because emotions and feelings get in the way of doing. And so threes can feel like emotions and feelings are just unnecessary, and then they slow you down, and they it's a lot, so I don't want to tap into my emotions. um their passion, first, their fear, so that was probably what I should have talked about at the top. Their fear is being worthless or being without inherent value. So being to not having value, and their desire is to be valuable. And that can look like a way that they try to be valuable is to be successful. If I can um, be achieve, then I am valuable. Is sort of the message that they sort of can get tripped up on. Their fixation, or their thing that can just kind of get in the way, is vanity. And that's a word that we probably should pull apart a little bit. But vanity meaning that they can want to be liked for their accomplishments. So it doesn't have to be like physical vanity. It can be more so um, even just like emotional, or not emotional, but not just physical vanity. Um, what else? What else, Kim? What am I missing?
I was gonna say a little bit more about vanity.
Yeah,
Um,
please. Yeah.
for threes, it can look like um just a preoccupation with being viewed through the lens of other people. It's incredible. It's really something that I I really did not realize before learning that I was a three, and I'm not sure how how the language to capture it would have ever come about. Um, that can really kind of describe what it feels like as a three. Um, I think I read or heard someone reference this notion of kind of seeing your life like through the lens of a movie.
Mm,
Um, but
mhm,
I'll just notice like I'm taking my dog for a walk, and I just will be aware of what it may look like to someone else just walking
mhm,
down the street.
mhm.
And so I think that that's really what the vanity is getting at, just this kind of preoccupation with an awareness or seeing yourself through the lens of other people.
Yeah, that's That's very important. I love that idea of the seeing yourself like in a movie. I've never thought about that, but that fits. That fits. Something that I forgot to mention was threes, and failure. That threes have a hard time
Mm.
with failure. That's like what they're trying to avoid, at all costs, probably. Um,
Yeah.
so failure can feel very hard, for threes, and they're really trying to avoid failing. Um, Will you talk about I remember a story when you were first learning about the Enneagram and you had to do that panel, and you were a 3 and you talked and you had to kinda share about the insecurity piece and everyone was sort of surprised,
Mhm.
because I think that's sort of the underneath of the shining star is what's truly going on.
Yeah. 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 I shared that. So this is the first Enneagram training that I went to. Um, and it turned out I was the only three that was there. And so the person who was facilitating the training asked me how I felt about sitting on a panel, and I didn't know at that point what it meant to sit on a panel, especially in the Enneagram community. But you know what that means is you're sitting up there, and the coach or the trainer they're kind of asking you questions from the place of your type, um, and it's on display for everybody to hear and learn about.
Mhm.
So um, so she starts off just asking me about goals and being competent and being driven. And she asked me some type of question about basically the other side to that coin. And I shared with her how I distinctly remember really struggling with self-esteem. I would say elementary school, like probably around the fifth grade through middle school. Um, and it's probably at times still there. Like it's a
Mhm.
lot smaller,
Mhm.
but it was very, very impactful at that time. And yeah, my best friend was attending this training with me. And after the panel was over, she said, I never knew any of that. And people just they remarked about how they never would have guessed that was my experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that we'll get to misconceptions later, but I think that a lot of times people see threes, as being, so confident and bold and, out there and they, can shine bright. But that on the flip of that is that there is a very, they are in the shame triad.
Yep.
And so it's a that is the behavior that they're doing to hide this struggle, this question mark of um am I valuable? Am I how am I seen? How am I viewed? And is it of value? And
Mhm.
so the behavior that comes with that is, well, then I'm going to shine really, really bright. Um, and so it's very important when you have threes in your life to really recognize that, because I think sometimes people can think that threes are vain, like, that word, or that they are cocky, or all of these kind of things, and it might look like that, but you have to understand the motivation of it, which is
Yep.
kind of sad. It's hard. I mean, we all have
Yeah.
our every number we get to this place where we go, eh, gosh, that's really sad. um but we definitely see that with threes.
So going back to what you were talking about as far as the emotions, and again we'll get into that a little bit more, but threes are in the center of the heart triad, but we can be pretty out of touch with our emotions at times because we can feel like they are it's kind of it's in the way, but there's that shame piece that's also there. And so we can kind of just try to push that out and push through it,
Hmm.
and put on this this persona, that we got everything under control and everything is like all good and we're crushing it and we're killing it. And so that's so true what you just said, as far as like if you are connected with threes, knowing that despite what you may see, they need to know that you feel like they have worth and value. I
Hmm.
mean, that's going back to what you said about the fears. When I first read about threes and that the fear for threes was a failure, that did not really resonate with me. It is true for me. I learned a little bit, more later, but that really didn't resonate with me. But being seen as like not having any worth or value, I mean, oh, that's it for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I I don't know why. I do really love threes in my life, and I love when I have threes that are close to me because I get to see that other side. And if you are someone that's listening to this who has, people in your life that are threes, giving threes the space to sort of drop
Yep.
that armor almost, and letting them be vulnerable, letting them share their feelings, cry, question, themselves sometimes, like, because on the outside they're not going to show that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very true.
Hmm. um all right, let's jump into the connections piece, because we love to look at that and how our numbers are connected to the different numbers. And so with the arrows, we talked about this with the nines, right? So 369 is a pretty strong connection. And so, Kim, you can share about those arrows for the on the three side of things, how they're
Yeah.
connected to the six and the nine.
Yep. Yep. So 3 can go to both types 9 and 6 as access points, or if you're looking at the Enneagram and you see the arrows, threes can move towards type 9, which is the peacemaker, when in distress. So threes can take on some of the unhealthy characteristics of 9. And then in growth, threes can look like sixes. So again, we try to just encourage you to consider the stress and growth language, kind of with a grain of salt, because you can access both of those types, the energy and characteristics from both of those types. Because again, we don't want to put limitations on anything, and using this tool. And so sometimes just hearing this and just feeling like you can only take on characteristics of your stress arrow when in stress is limiting.
Hmm.
So threes can move to 9 and look like they are shutting down suddenly and becoming disengaged, apathetic, and passive. Threes can remain busy to avoid looking lazy, even if they're not able to focus.
Hmm.
Threes can withdraw and become depressed, losing interest in accomplishing. They can want to be left alone and not bothered. They can numb out by watching TV, playing video games, shopping, eating, etc. And they can stubbornly resist help from others or even hearing that they need help.
Hmm.
Mhm. And so moving right along, um, to how threes can look like type 6, and we'll go to growth. So how threes can take on some of the healthy characteristics of 6. They can find rest in knowing that all of their sense of feeling like they need to accomplish that has already been met, that they, just being humans, that they are more than enough, and so they don't have to crush goals or accomplish things to feel that sense of feeling enough. They can become less competitive and more cooperative. They can become more loyal and focused on the well-being of other people. They can shift to a team player mindset, using their talents to help and promote others. They can ask for help and for advice, and they can become more vulnerable and reveal who they are behind their achievements.
Hmm. Hmm. um yes. And then if we look with, oh, I guess, because I've said this a couple times now, like that 369 is a pretty strong connection. I think what we mean by that, or what I mean by that, is that sometimes those numbers, well, they have an interesting, because they sit in the middle of their triad. So they have an interesting relation to their, like, the heart triad, the head triad, and the body triad. And they show up kind of similarly in those triads, but in their different ways. And then I think that a lot of times I hear this, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like when I 3, 6, and 9 sometimes can really almost misidentify very easily with each other. I feel like, nines, obviously we've talked about nines can look like a lot of numbers. Sixes, I think sometimes they'll be like, oh, I think I'm a nine, I think I'm a three. Like, it's a very strong connection. I also, even with that strong connection, I have a lot of people in my life who are three in couples. There's no like science to couples, but there's a lot of 3, 9 couples. Um, so there's a lot that kind of overlaps a little bit in that 3, 6, 9 connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my husband's a 6.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. um so then we'll look at wings, the other ways that we can have access points around the Enneagram. So when we look at the three, their wings are 2, or on the other side, they have a wing 4. And so when they are they can lean into the side 2 wing by balancing their hat, like balancing, not just prioritizing tasks and doing, but being able to balance that with the feelings and the people aspect of that, and the emotional side of that, again, because twos are big feelers. They can collaborate with others and listen to others. They're going to really prioritize strong teamwork. And then they're going to be able to get in touch with their own emotions and having empathy for others. They might, when they lean into that 2 space, they might be prioritizing other people's goals more than their own. And there's maybe a little bit less impatience around for others. And then when they lean into the 4 side, um, they're going to be able to really connect more deeply into their own emotions. They're able to really touch base with how they feel. They can, because 4s are on the other side, other big feelers. And so when they can lean into the 4 space, they're able to do that as well. Um, they're able to slow down and work at a pace that they're able to connect and like integrate their feelings into their work. 3 wings 4s are going to have a little bit of flavor of the uniqueness of a 4. So they're going to have some of that creative stuff going on with them, a little bit of the individuality that a 4 brings to the table, in that when they are leaning into that 4 space. Hey, so a part of our hope is to really connect with you guys. So we want to know what you're getting from this and what you want to learn more about on this podcast.
You can connect with Camille on Instagram at camille.logan.lcmhc.
And you can find Kim on Instagram at KReeseLCSW.
And you can follow us both on Instagram at Enneagram for the Culture. We've dropped the links in the show notes, so check those out too. And while you're there, go ahead and bless us with a rating and a review. Subscribe so you can be notified when our new episodes drop weekly, and share this with someone you know. We'll see you around.
So, what are some of the like funny little anecdotes and characteristics and caricatures and stories around 3s? Something that I was thinking about that we didn't think about before, and again, correct me if you don't agree with this. The 3s in my life, and I have a lot of them, are they, I wouldn't say the word trendy, but they have style, and they I don't think that any number owns this, but they're attractive people. They have style, they dress well, they care about their appearance. So they're going to portray that in the way that they show up in their dress or in their hair or their makeup or any of that kind of stuff. They're fashionable.
Did I tell you about the time I was doing some in-home work and they told me I needed to dress down a little bit?
Oh,
I did.
You didn't tell me that. But were you going in a ball gown? Were you ready to go? What were you doing?
No, but I mean, just to your point. So this is, this was community-based work. This is not private practice. I'm going into people's homes, working with families that are that oftentimes did not sign up for therapy. So, I mean, you remember those. So it wasn't
Mhm.
uncommon to show up
Mhm.
and the child is not there for therapy. And so we gotta go find them.
Mhm.
And I think that's the angle, at least they were trying to present. Well, no, I'm not even gonna say that for them. It was surrounding just me connecting with certain clients, and yeah, the management, they were trying to suggest that maybe the way I was dressing had something to do with why I couldn't connect with certain clients. So they told me that I should try to come, wear some sweatpants.
Well, I mean, I
Mhm.
I think sweatpants isn't gonna work for anybody. But I could maybe see because I could probably see you rolling up in like heels and things that maybe weren't necessary.
Hey, and so we can go ahead, this probably will tie into the conversation about race, but most of my clients were Black families, and they weren't used to seeing professionals
Mhm.
show up looking like professionals.
Mhm.
So it was important to me to
Mhm.
show up looking like a professional.
I like
Mhm.
that, Kim.
And that was why I continued to show up in my heels, in my suit. Sometimes I would wear, dress down, but I did. I felt
Look
like I had
nice.
a, yep, yep. But yes, to your point, yeah, I think that's a thing for threes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Sometimes you can kind of, again, this is a generalization. Threes on social media, right? Like um they love a selfie. Like they're good at social media. Um, yeah, they know how to play that game. And they do it
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I have not been on social media for like, I think going on 2 months now. And I think it's for that reason. Like I'm aware that it's for me, like it's too much of a slippery slope.
Mm,
It's too much of a distraction. And it really does make me anxious to be scrolling, and all of the things that are happening for me and the way I kind of process and my stuff, like it's not good for me. So
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that would be something that maybe on our like when what threes can work on would be like looking at your relationship with with social media because it like she said it can be a slippery slope. Social media in general for all of us is a slippery
right.
slope. But for threes who again are very
Image conscious.
image conscious, like right, like it is it can get a little out of hand when we're looking at likes and who saw
Mhm.
this and do people share it. That can feed into some of those narratives that can keep threes stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting a sense of like where your worth and value from
Hmm.
the wrong places, from the wrong sources.
Yep. Okay, what else are kind of those light anecdotes around threes?
Well, we talked about threes in competition.
Uh-huh.
And again, that's one for me. Um, I didn't realize I was as I'm definitely competitive. I've always been competitive, but and we didn't really talk about deception, which is definitely something for threes to be aware
Hmm.
of. It can be really, really uncomfortable um
Hmm.
to accept and talk about, but that's a weakness for threes. It's not about walking around and um habitually lying and deceiving the people in our lives. Is more so about internal, deception. So that sense of being able to shift and morph because of that awareness of our image and what we perceive it needs to be in order for us to feel a sense of accomplishment. It's almost impossible to do that and be honest with yourself about who you are and what your values
Hmm.
are.
So you mean
So
deception kind of like again, not to attack threes, but a little bit like smoke and mirrors a little bit. It can go down that kind of a place where we can have like what something looks like and it can be a deceptive thing.
I don't know what you mean by smoke and mirrors.
Have you never heard that term?
I have.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So are you saying, yeah, I just need you to clarify that. Like, are you saying that
So
threes are
threes
threes orchestrating the smoke and mirrors, or?
not orchestrating smoke and mirrors, but like with I'm connecting smoke and mirrors to deception, where there might, what you were saying about, because we're shape shifting into showing up and looking a certain way, there might be some deception to that, which I connect that to the idea of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. So it's like um, kind of like how we talked about nines and merging, and
Mhm.
again, talking about this connection with threes, sixes, and nines. But like for threes, their sense of like what's important to them, who they are, their values, it can merge with whatever the perception is that it needs to be in order for them to, or us to accomplish or succeed.
Mhm.
And in the process of that merging happening, we're lying to ourselves,
Mhm.
not being real
Mhm.
with ourselves about who we really are, what we really value, what we really want. We're telling ourselves that this is what we really want, but it's really because it's what we perceive we need to be in order for us to get where we're trying to get.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, I
So,
think
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Really quick to wrap up the competition point, and then we can come back to this because this is supposed to be funny. when when I just first landed on my type, that was something that I did not resonate with me being competitive, and that's a part of the deception. I think all of these
Mm.
years for myself is like not really being willing to see that, or not wanting to see that. But my mom would joke with me all the time, like when I was dating, and like guys would take me to, putt putt and
Mm.
don't play me in air hockey. I mean, anything like that. My mom would try to have a little pep talk with me. She would send me texts while I'm out. Hey, look, remember, sometimes you need to let other people win, especially and I'll be like, that's some BS. Because whoever I'm supposed to be with, they're going to be able to tolerate the fact that I'm going to smoke them in air hockey. I'm not going to not, be myself.
I
So
think I like that though, but yeah, I love that. That's a great story about your mom texting you like, "Oh, it's okay."
mhm. I
And
get
you
home,
can,
she'd be like, did you let them win? I'd be like,
no,
no.
I didn't. That's amazing. Um, yeah, okay, so the competitive piece, and then I think that you alluded to this earlier with in the past you would have just been like, "Oh, I don't like golf. I don't want to because I don't know if I'm good at it." Um, I think with the competitive piece, right? Like sometimes you'll see, I think when threes can say, "Oh, I'm not competitive," is because sometimes they don't even put themselves in the game because they're like, "Well, I'm not going to play." Like, because then I won't
Yeah.
fail um, because I'm not sure I can do this. So yeah, I have a couple threes that they don't like game night. Nope, don't like
Mhm.
game night.
Yeah.
Because I might not win.
Yeah. Absolutely. Same. 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 I don't remember the last time I went to a game night.
Mm-mm.
I get anxiety. I do. I do. Because especially if you're gonna partner me with my husband, because then we supposed to, and he like just not good at taboo. It's the whole thing. Yep. Yep. I love him.
And it's supposed to be fun and games, Kim. It's just
Right.
game
No.
night.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. I know. I know. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard for me.
Mhm.
It's hard to
Yeah.
just, yep.
My
Um,
speaking of looking like a certain way, a little bit of the deception. My dad is a 3, which yeah, he's a 3. And there's so many stories of his threeness, but one that I think is particularly funny. We grew up at the beach. We were constantly at the beach. We're Jamaican, so like we just beach is just what we do. And recently, as adults, I mean, within the last 2 years, my dad shared that he actually doesn't know how to swim. That he never actually learned. Um,
all this time, y'all thought he could swim.
he didn't actually like formally learn how to like swim. However, my dad, if you see him in the water, looks like a fish. Like, but then when you really look in closely, he doesn't have the technique, but he's got it. Like he's competent enough, and he's competent to be able, like my mom was like, so all these years I let my children go in the water with someone
In the ocean.
in the ocean that but he is, because threes are they'll figure it out. They will figure it out and they're gonna look like they got it. And he's got it. But when you really dig, he's never actually learned. And I think we were like, what? And he's like, but I mean, I'm fine. So again, the deception, like even he's not
I
even gonna
know, bro. You can't swim. You have the ocean with you.
And honestly, like he's really, I don't want you to think that, but he really looks, but that when you really like look at the details, you're like, oh yeah, he doesn't like swim out really far, or like he doesn't like again, he's not gonna fail. So he's not jumping off of a boat, like he's not doing
Mhm,
stuff like that,
mhm,
but
mhm.
he is totally very competent in the water. And I mean, I always felt, in case he's listening, I always felt safe. Um, and we always had a lot of fun in the water, and he was out there. I mean, he would be out there in quotation marks swimming, and very much looking like he was swimming, which I think is such a funny three thing, just that
That is a good
competency.
bless. My dad's a three
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
What about threes in the pandemic?
Oh, okay. So the threes and pandemic, that was a fun thing to watch. Um, so when the pandemic first started, most of us, we watched a lot of TV. We struggled with our workout routines. Um, we didn't do much. Um, if you were working from home, folks were, taking naps in the middle of the day. Um, but then when you hear what a 3 was doing at the beginning of the pandemic, not all, but pretty common, 3s were working the hardest that they've ever worked before. 3s were doing 2-a-day workouts.
Mhm,
3s learned a new instrument. 3s
mhm.
learned how to completely like make bread from start to finish, and they're now like bread connoisseurs. Like they did a lot in the pandemic. I have a friend who we did a thing, and it was like, name what you did at the pandemic, what you got really good at during the pandemic, and there was options like working out, learning an instrument, learning a new hobby, and her choice was all of them. It was
Mhm.
D, all of them. And that was true. She learned a new instrument, she worked out a ton, she learned how to cook, like she was active during that time. So yeah. Kim,
Yeah.
what did you do in the pandemic?
Yeah. I became a certified Enneagram coach and um launched a I launched a new brand called the Melanated Enneagram in addition
Mhm.
to carrying this out with you.
Mhm.
I did pick up the electric guitar
Mhm.
and
You got into plants, you told us that.
got into plants and really up my sneaker game.
You s
Like, yeah. With nowhere to go, right? Nowhere to wear them. But I wear them every day around my house or to the office and back to my house.
Uh-huh. Looking
And I
good.
love it.
Looking
Yeah.
fly. Yep.
Mhm.
So I think that's funny to watch threes, to see that with threes in the pandemic. And then the last thing that we thought about was another, I think this is
Yeah.
funny and interesting. And I think we've actually woven body stuff into each episode, which I really like. But
Oh,
with
good.
yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But with threes and their body, um, so because threes are doers and they're a little bit cut off from their body and their heart space, they can one, you'll hear a 3 be like, oh, I finally went to the doctor after having this pain for 6 months, turns out that I have this big thing. Like they will persist through pain longer because they're almost cut off from it, or they ignore it. um and all of a sudden they need surgery, because but then you'll be like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they're like, no, I've had this for like a year, and you're like, oh, okay. You didn't think to go get that checked out, in the first month, and they're like, it was just
Yeah.
a little thing, it was just a
Yeah.
little thing, it wasn't that big
Yeah.
of a deal. um so they can kind of push through that, with big physical elements, or they can all of a sudden get really sick. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden they're in bed sick, and you're like, well, how'd you get so sick? And it's like, but then you hear their schedule for the last 2 months, and you're like, well, you
Mhm.
haven't been sleeping.
Mhm.
And so they'll have these bigger physical stuff because they almost ignore um the other stuff. And then a little side note to the physical ailments, with the ignoring body, and you also talked about this before, not, not going to the bathroom, not eating, like kind of those physical cues,
Mhm.
threes will sort of ignore them.
Mhm.
Because they're working and they're doing things and they're active and they're moving, that they almost forget that I have to go pee, or I haven't eaten all day. And it's not that they're, correct me, I don't think you're avoiding it. It's almost that they're almost not aware of it. It's just sort of like, I'll get to that later. It's not a big deal. And then realizing, oh shit, I haven't eaten all day.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a podcast, y'all can't see my face, Camille can see it. 'Cause she knows she just this I just yeah, exactly. And it's not that it's you just yeah, we can for me, I can just especially the food part, like not eating and at times the bathroom. It's just I can just be so focused on whatever I'm doing and um I mean it will probably tie into I think it does tie into some misconceptions, but also maybe some truths for a lot of threes. I mean, we can really be workaholics. Me personally, like it's something that I got to keep in check and be aware of. And so with that, like there's just so much, I just get so much out of work of working, um, that I'm just so into it that I don't realize that I'm hungry and that I need to eat. And I always feel so much better
Mhm.
afterwards. It's like, oh my gosh, like how could I have not felt that I was this uncomfortable when I feel, the comfort of having nourishment in my body
Mhm.
um is real.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the positive of that, right? Like, is again, you guys can work hard. I think if you have a three who's your workout buddy, they work hard when they're working out. They're gonna grab the heavier weights. They're gonna push themselves for that extra, you know, half a mile. Sometimes to their detriment, but
Mhm.
also sometimes in a good way. So they're very inspiring in that way. In
Yeah.
limitations.
You can also be clumsy.
Yes.
Um Moving so quickly, doing so much, can bump into stuff and end up with scratches and bruises and like, oh, I don't realize where that came from. It's from when you ran into your desk. True story.
And
Corner right
probably didn't stop to like go,
No,
ow, like
it's just kind of like, ooh,
let me keep
was
going.
running to the bathroom because I really had to pee.
Where there's like other numbers, like who that it happens. Like me, I would be like, ow, that hurt so bad, like that hurt, like, and you're just like, ooh, okay, keep
Back it
going.
up. Yeah.
And then you can't even remember where the bruise came from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love it. So yeah, so those, anything else you can think of, or is that pretty much some of those lighter stories?
I think that's it. I mean, I just a little bit more on that the physical part and talking about the body for three, something not so much a funny anecdote, but to be aware of is just in the shoulders.
Yeah.
Um because threes can be so poised
Mhm.
and doing and in motion and busy. Um but especially kind of going back to, being um, in the heart center, but disconnected from our emotions. Um, the way threes move, if you notice posture, we can kind of our shoulders. There can be a lot of tension in our shoulders,
Mhm.
and so for threes to remember to kind of breathe and
Mhm.
be aware of that and let your shoulders drop. Feel
Yeah.
that difference.
It is really interesting, watching all the numbers and how they move their bodies. And I mean, I don't know a three that slouches. I don't know a three that is hunched over. They're sitting up. They are again, they're shining stars. So they stand up straight. They sit up tall. They take up that space, which is just interesting to kind of note the way that we move through the world in our bodies.
All right, misconceptions.
Yeah. So misconceptions of threes. Um, I said this a little bit earlier that they can be, cocky or snobby. I don't think that's true. Again, because you have to know the shadow side of what's happening to know that they're not cocky or snobby. It just maybe presents in a way like that, but it's not the motivation. It's not,
Mhm.
that's not real. That's actually like that sentence. That's not real. It's almost like kind of what you
Mhm.
have to think about with threes, and even for threes to know for themselves, like it's not real. Um, yeah, actually, I'm thinking about a really, really great conversation. It was actually with someone that I work with, and she was saying that she has this, she's a three, and she has this constant to-do list, and some of it is real and some of it's not real. Like it's these tasks and these goals that don't really matter. And so we have to do a lot of work on separating what's the real tasks that you have to do and what's just sort of the image based tasks that you have to do. And that was a really big revelation for her, was recognizing like, oh, that list that I have, that's these standards and these expectations, it's not, they're not all real. And I remember that was really big for her.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Sounds like it. Um, yeah, that we don't have that threes don't have feelings. So yeah, that's could not be further from the truth. Again, threes
Mhm.
are just it's just if we were just sticking to the fundamentals of the Enneagram, it's in the center of the heart triad. So they're all about some feels.
Mhm.
It can just be a complicated relationship with their emotions. It can be repressed. So going back to those the 3, 6, and the 9, and how Camille was saying each type can have an interesting kind of dynamic with that specific center of intelligence, and that's the case for threes sitting in the
Mhm.
heart center, but we can be out of touch with our emotions,
Mhm.
or appear to be out of touch with our emotions, um, or yeah, like cold, or that we threes don't care, and that's so untrue.
Mhm. Yeah. I think with threes, sometimes when you ask them how they feel, you might get an answer of I don't know. A lot of times you'll get I don't know actually, but it's really and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that it's almost that they're not stopping enough to tap into what they feel.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not that I don't, well, they don't know because they didn't stop. But when they can stop and actually think about it, actually feel it, actually be there, they can grab the feeling, they know what it is. But in the moment, they don't know how they feel.
Yeah. For the longest, I would get irritated when people ask me that,
Mhm.
because it meant I had to slow down and really pay, like, get attuned and pay attention, and that felt like it took too much time.
Mhm. Yeah, it takes so much time. Um, the spotlight. So you can talk on this one.
Yeah, yeah. So this perception that threes um just like being in the spotlight, kind of like what you were saying about social media and
Mhm.
selfies, and kind of threes being very comfortable in that space and being good at it. Um But and so while that may be the appearance, that's not what it feels like
Mhm.
always. So speaking personally, like most people think I'm shy, and I am. I don't really like. I don't. I can be very uncomfortable in the spotlight. Um, I'm also a self preservation three, which is the counter type for three. So that's just something else to keep in mind, and just an example of how going back to check out the episode on subtypes, to be reminded of what they are. But for each type, depending on what your subtype is, there's also a counter type where you can present like very counter or
Mhm.
opposite of what a typical um type 3 may look like.
Mhm.
So so that's a misconception, that all threes just love absorbing and being at the center of attention or in the spotlight. A
Mhm.
lot of threes are very uncomfortable with it.
Mhm. Yeah. And that leads us into another misconception that about threes, is that they, with that spotlight, that if we think that all threes like the spotlight, then we also probably might assume, which I think is wrong, that threes only want to be in the spotlight for themselves,
Mhm.
and that they want to be the only one standing in the spotlight. I don't think that that's true either. I think that's a misconception. One of my favorite things about the threes in my life is that they're very inclusive of achievement. They want everybody to achieve and to succeed. And so especially when threes are healthy. And so I have benefited so greatly from the threes in my life because they are the ones that almost they cheer you on into what you could be. They're so great at visions, and they're so great at seeing what they themselves can be and what other people can be, that they can actually put voice to that.
Mhm.
I even think about, like, with this podcast, like this was your idea, right? And this was you saying we should do this, and we can do this, um, and that I can do this. And so that was that vision. And I think of the other threes in my life that very much cheer achievements on for other people,
Yeah.
because they see that so easily. Um, One time I was had to do like a photo shoot for something, and it was something silly. It was like and I was telling my three friend, and I was like, "Oh, I have to do this photo shoot. I don't know what I was kind of nervous about it, like probably most people are." And she was like, "You never know. They might think that you could be a model. Like they could, like she just so easily went to this place of like they could choose you to be the face of the blah blah blah." And I was like, "I've never thought of that, but is that how you think?" And she was like, "It was immediate." Like it was just immediate that like the achievement that could happen from this thing, how something could be greater, is good. So again, I don't think that they are selfish in their achievements, right? She wasn't saying I could be a model. She was saying that to me, she wasn't saying that for herself. She was saying it to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's yes, that's such a important. I just know that I need to hear that. That's known about threes. That it's not, yeah, that we can see that in the people in our lives, and it just is for, again, I keep trying to like not speak for all threes. I'm just talking about me as a three. Um, there really just aren't the words. I mean, it has so much to do with why I'm a therapist, but
Hmm.
just wanting and seeing the potential and all that. I mean, it's just limitless the way I think as far as what can be done. So I appreciate it being seen that like it's something that we aspire to um encourage and cheer on and hope for in others. Like it's not a self-centered,
Mm-mm,
self-serving thing.
mm-mm. No, 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 I definitely see it. Um, we have in here to talk about ones and threes. Just a quick note on that. Um, so that's a misconception or something to note in the misconception section. So ones and threes can look very similar, but there is some
Yeah.
difference to the two of them. And so sometimes they can get confused by other people. Usually ones and threes know that they are not the other, because there's sometimes a little bit of a friction. But other people might think a one is a three or a three is a one. But you really have to go back to the motivations, because again, when we look at the ones, they're wanting to be good, or right. And so that can look like a three wanting to be the best or wanting to achieve. But the motivation is different because a one, um, uh, well, a three is trying to, a three is not, I'm struggling. You want to break it down, Kim?
Um, a three, uh, I remember we had this conversation like when I was first learning about the Enneagram. I can't remember what we were talking about, but we we were we were kind of running the same behavior
Hmm.
through the different types and talking about how what motivated the person to do the thing was different. So the difference with ones and threes, like you said, ones want to be good, like, and do it right, more so from a moral standpoint of what's seen and understood to be good and right. And threes kind of want to be the best, so they want to be, what's good and what's right because it's gonna help them be the best or
Hmm.
achieve.
So threes, in comparison, threes can sometimes cut corners differently than a one. A one's not going to cut corners because then it won't be done right.
Mhm.
But a three might cut corners because it will be the best.
Mhm.
Um, and then the opposite, not the opposite, but another part of that is a one. Ones usually don't love delegating because it means that somebody else might do it wrong. A three, if they know that the other person can do it well and can shine, they're okay with delegating. It as long as right we get to that more best place.
Right.
So so that's a little bit. They're both very different, but they kind of can live in the same world a little bit with how they show up in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to jump into the race stuff now then.
Yeah, definitely.
So this question that we're always asking in each episode, right, is how does race intersect with this number? And so how does race show up for threes? And or
Yeah.
how does threeness intersect with race?
Yeah. So what came up for us, we were talking about this notion of code switching.
Mhm.
And it's funny that actually this came up in a conversation with my husband just last night. We were something we were watching on TV. And it was the reverse. It was a white person who was code switching. And I say reverse because for the most part, my understanding of what it means to code switch is obviously it's from a Black perspective. Um, and so my first kind of memory as far as an experience of like just an awareness that we do that was hearing my older sister, like I was really, really young. She was on the phone with her job and I heard her voice, dialect, everything. It sounded very different from how I was used to hearing her talk. And so that was my first kind of memory and awareness of of the fact that we do that. It's not just Black people, but here I think when it comes to threes and threes moving again with this awareness of what how they're being perceived and what their image is, and that awareness coming from a place of how do I need to show up in order for me to be successful. um and I think keeping in mind also for people of color, even at times, how that drills down to safety,
Mhm.
and acceptance. Um, Speaking as a three, who's been in a lot of settings where there was nobody else who looked like me, um, as far as race, it's something
Mhm.
that I'm pretty comfortable with.
Mhm.
I feel like I can do with ease. Doesn't mean that there's not an impact, which I think is also important
Yes.
for us to always be aware of. But um, it feels kind of easy,
Mhm.
honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that for sure. I think most Black people are aware and have, of code switching and how it shows up in their own lives. And again, what you said about the safety and acceptance that unfortunately, right? Like I take a deep breath, right? Because it's heavy. That we have to code switch sometimes. And that is a very common Black experience. But like you said, for threes, that can be very easy. And it's because it's trying, what do I need to do, sound like, look like to be able to achieve and accomplish in this world. And if I can speak a certain way, look a certain way, do something a certain way to get that, then I will do it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and so I think, just being able to check in with ourselves, I think for all of Black people, right? When we just noticing when and why do I code switch? What does it feel like when I do? The impact it has on me, um, and just being aware of it.
Yeah, I think that part that's really, really, really important for us to do
Mhm.
because again, it can feel natural, easy, um, just kind of smooth to switch into. I mean, for all of us, because for
Mhm.
so long it's what we've had to do.
Mhm.
But to not take for granted that there's an impact. Um, and to honor that.
Yeah. Um, and then kind of similarly ish, right? So when we talked a lot with threes around like shape shifting. Another word that we use with threes is chameleoning, or wearing a mask. And so when we look at that in race, we want to notice and recognize that for threes, sometimes wherever, depending on where they live, or if they are going to a PWI, or if they are in situations where they're the only one, that they might be chameleoning or putting on a mask that is of the predominant white culture for whatever space they're in. Um, and so for threes to just, again, to check that and to know that that's something that they naturally do anyway, and that it might, again, be an easy thing to do in those settings.
Totally.
Hmm. Yeah.
About the positive traits
Yes.
that
Yes.
threes bring to the Black experience.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this on a personal level, right? That they're visionaries and that they're encouraging, but then on a macro level, on a for our people, right? Like they're gonna be the ones that can see what can be. They're the ones that can see what a community can be, or you want threes. You definitely, God, you definitely want threes in your planning meetings and in your boardrooms, because they're the ones that are going to be able to see what we can get done, um, in this neighborhood or in this school or whatever. They're just so natural at that.
Mhm.
You need those people there. I sometimes can think of organizations that I can sometimes be like, we need a three here. Like what we're missing the voice that says what we can be. And then the really cool thing that threes do is they do it. They say what we can be and here's how we do it. And so you need that in advocacy work, um, and just being able to build.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah. So threes, threes are hopeful. Like that's a part of was the holy idea.
Mhm,
For threes is hope. And so threes can when healthy and tapped into that, threes can bring that to our people
mhm,
and our communities, and when we need it.
mhm.
We
Yeah,
really need it. So,
yeah. And then
uh,
because they're so hopeful and driven and encouraging, all those things, right? Like I've said from the very beginning, right? There are shining stars. So they are the ones that are winning awards um, and just shining bright. It's what they do, and that's an inspiration to us of how we can be, and they work hard, you know, kind of like, rooting for everyone Black, right? Like, so we're always constantly rooting for our brothers and sisters that are like really shining. Like,
mhm.
do it. Yeah.
All right, and helpful ways for threes to grow.
The big thing that you're always going to hear if you're a three is slow down.
Yeah,
That's always going
absolutely.
to be at the top of the list, is slow down. So that, like when we even said the comment about the feelings, like slow down so that you can check in with yourself and that you can actually take care of yourself and not get lost. Even that simple thought around slow down so you can go to the bathroom, slow down so you can eat. Like those are simple, very tangible ways to take care of yourself. But then even bigger, we want a three to be able to slow down so that they can take care of their feelings, so that they can take care when they're tired and when they're sad and when they're stressed, like slowing down so that they can get to that place to take care of themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I love talking about self care.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite topics, especially in the context of therapy, especially in the context of therapy with Black people and Black women. And one of my favorite parts about it is just how it evolves. You know, how we take care of ourselves evolves with our evolution, and as we grow and come to understand who we are, our self-care grows with that. And so I think that that is so important for threes, is taking care of yourself, but first, like with that slowing down, taking the time and intention and a commitment to knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the image stuff and how the and the deceit, all of that being tied up in this tension between who you really are and who you feel like you need to be. And
Yes.
so taking that time to slow down, to really lean in and come to understand who you are, what your values are, what you want because you want it, not because it's what you feel like you're supposed to want to
Yeah.
do all the things.
Yeah.
And also just, separate from some of the things we've already touched on when it comes to how impactful white culture may be on what your sense of knowing who you are and what you want may be.
Mm.
So doing that in addition to caring for yourself from that place of knowing,
Yes.
truly knowing who you are,
Yes.
separate from your image.
Yes. So then values work is going to be big for threes, figuring out, naming what their values are, and having them be their own values as opposed to what the cultural values are, societal values are. Um, Threes, another way for you to grow is really doing some good embodied work, or embodiment work. And embodiment means how we are in our bodies, how we our relationship with our bodies. And so, embodiment is kind of like noticing how you're sitting right now, and what does it feel like to be sitting the way that you're sitting, and just being aware of your body. And for threes, definitely doing a lot of embodiment work, like we talked about, they can very much ignore that, because it kind of can get in the way. So having threes noticing, are they hungry? Do you have to go to the restroom? How is your foot asleep? Are you comfortable? Is this the way that you're sitting comfortable? Do you need to breathe? So being able to touch base with that, our bodies, because they're wise, and being able to have that kind of lead the way, as opposed to having that come from external cues of how I should be sitting or how I should be working or how I should be moving, but really having that come from an internal place of what feels good for my body.
Yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the last one? Oh, so just being aware of and intentional, perhaps in some ways, about your people, the people in your life, your tribe, your relationships, and making sure you have people who will hold you accountable and kind of
Mm-hmm.
let you know when you need to slow down, be it
Mm-hmm.
pace or ideas,
Mm-hmm.
because threes, we can see it all and how it can all happen and can easily do it all, have all the
Absolutely.
businesses, wear all the hats. And
Mm-hmm.
so having people in your life to say, you're supposed to have boundaries with this, or that just seems like that might be a lot.
Or even having, people in your life to ask, do you want to do it?
Good question. Is
Sometimes,
that really something you want to do?
yeah, we don't care if you can do it. You can. We know you can.
Right.
It's or is it good to do? Like, is this going to, build clout or build, some sort of success? It's really going back to the question. But do you want to? Do you want to get involved in X, Y, and Z? For sure. Even in relationships, I feel like that's important for threes. Sometimes threes can get into relationships because they're cute and I'm supposed to get married and I'm supposed to do this stuff. And that's what's supposed to build success and achievement, and really slowing down and going, do you like that person? What do you like about them? Do they meet your values? Really checking in with yourself for that question.
Yeah,
Mhm.
most definitely. Okay, we did it.
That's you, and you did it, Kim. How do you feel? Do you feel like we did your people justice?
I do. And I hope so.
All
Y'all
right.
let us know, but not really me. Just send it out to Camille. No. I think this was great. I definitely think we did threes justice.
Good, good. And yeah, it's always with all the numbers, right? There's the really, really good stuff, the really, really special stuff. And then yeah, there is the hard stuff that is not as fun to talk about. And so you stuck in there, you let
Well,
us
you make
succeed.
it fun. You
Thank
make
you.
it fun.
Thank you. But I see your vulnerability, and you exposing some stuff, and I know that is hard for threes, and so I see that and I recognize it and I commend you. So good job, Kim.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm gonna take it. I take that. Thank you.
And I will await the sevens, and I will not envy what you do. But until then, y'all, we're gonna hop off of here because we've done it with threes, and then we'll see you guys for number 4 for Enneagram 4. But that's it.
Cool. It's been real.
See you later. See you next episode. Bye.
Bye.